IVM.
Hey Raghavi, do you remember in the beginning of the pandemic there was this viral song thing. It was a scene from some Hindi serial which this guy had made into a remix. I was that cooker se chane nikal diye.
Yes.
Khali cooker gas pe chada diya. Yes.
That is exactly it.
I don't know why, but I feel like that was a period where there were so many remixes.
Yeah, we had a lot of free time on our hands, no? Because of the lockdown.
I see.
Everybody and their mom either bought a synth or started a podcast. So.
Yay, we did the second one. Have you ever wondered why women don't do more crime?
Well, we're here to tell you there's misconduct all the time.
Women are thieves and murderers.
That's gross misconduct.
Con artists, money launderers.
Criminal misconduct.
Financial fraud that's hard to track.
Takes some planning, but still misconduct.
Even breaching a contract.
That's more civil though.
It's misconduct. It's misconduct. We tell you all about women that suck. Things that make you say, what the? It's misconduct.
Hello, and welcome to Misconduct. This is a podcast on which we talk about criminal women, usually Indian. On some days, however, we talk about women where we're not really sure whether they're criminals, mostly because of, all the noise around the case itself. And today is one such day. I am Raghavi.
And I am Nisha. And on today's episode, we are talking about Rhea Chakraborty. So Rhea Chakraborty is an Indian actress, model, and video jockey who appeared in a handful of Bollywood films. In June of 2020, Rhea's world was flipped upside down when her rumoured partner and fellow actor Sushant Singh Rajput committed suicide in his flat in the city of Mumbai. Post that, through a series of confusing events, Rhea and her family were accused of a series of crimes by Sushant's father, including money laundering, fraud, cheating, and abetment of suicide. It became such a national phenomenon that the entire country was glued to their televisions all day, all night, just to watch this drama unfold.
Oh, and as a country, we had the time to do this because we were in the middle of a deadly pandemic and most cities were under pretty strict lockdown. So what do you do other than staring at your TV?
Yep. Also, the IPL, the Indian Premier League, wasn't on TV yet during that summer. So everyone was just really bored.
Fair.
So when investigating the allegations of siphoning funds from Sushant, two major investigative agencies of India got involved. That's the Central Bureau of Investigation, or the CBI, and the Enforcement Directorate, or the ED. These agencies found a few WhatsApp chats between Rhea, Sushant, and other parties that led them to believe that illegal narcotics were being consumed or distributed. And that's when the Narcotics Control Bureau, or the NCB, got involved. For a period of 2 months between August and October 2020, Rhea was called by the NCB for questioning, arrested, and stayed in jail for weeks together and was ripped apart by the national and state media houses incessantly for crimes that were just not really clear yet.
So in October 2020, after a long series of legal filings, Rhea was finally released on bail by the Bombay High Court. The court cited that she has no criminal antecedents and was not likely to commit any crimes when on bail.
In March 2021, an elaborate charge sheet was filed in court detailing that Rhea and her brother were engaged in the sale, purchase, procurement, consumption, and possession of narcotics drugs. This charge sheet was filed again with the same charges in June 2022. Today, Rhea awaits the next steps in her legal battle, which I'm sure we're all going to be watching with bated breath.
Now, this is a very complicated case for us, primarily because we just don't know how the NCB works and what their powers are. They're very, very wide. We also had to sift through a lot of rumors and hearsay before we could put together anything concrete for this episode.
Yeah, and that's why this episode is going to be limited to two things. First, this episode will only be about the allegations regarding the sale and use of illegal narcotics by Rhea. Two, this episode will be about facts. No rumor, no sensationalization, no opinions beyond our analysis of the case itself. Let's drown out the noise.
Also, to help us really understand what was going on, we have a guest on board today. So later in the episode, we'll be joined by Anshul Choudhary, who is a lawyer, an entrepreneur, and the host of the Adjourned podcast. So Anshul, in his own hilarious words, is a lawyer who specializes in taking Passovers and adjournments. That's basically just pushing a case to another day. That's a bit of an undersale, I feel, because we've listened to the Adjourned podcast and it's hilarious and incredibly informative. Adjourned is basically a podcast that's produced by Flying Dog Creators Collective, and they have about 6 episodes out on YouTube now, all in a video format, and it's super fun to watch. So if you guys are interested, please check them out. We'll add the links to their channel in our description. Please go have a look.
So before we go ahead, our usual disclaimers. This podcast is not suitable for children and listener discretion is advised.
All right, let's start with Rhea Chakraborty. So Rhea was born on 1st July 1992 in Bangalore, which makes her younger than both me and Nisha.
Yep.
Just putting that out there. Her family is Bengali by origin, as her surname likely gives away. Her father is Lieutenant Colonel Indrajit Chakraborty. He is an officer in the Indian Army and he was stationed in Bangalore and Ambala primarily. So most of her early school life was spent at like officer messes and army public schools, which is a pretty fine education, I must say. She also has a younger brother, Shovik Chakraborty, who is, she's apparently very close to him. His name will come up later. So at the tender age of 17, Rhea started working in the entertainment industry. So she was featured in the 2009 run of a reality show called TVS Scooty Teen Diva, which is a show on MTV India.
It was mega cringe.
Yeah.
We have one of the episodes available on dailymotion.com. We'll put the link in our blog. Go check it out. If your idea of entertainment is a bunch of teenagers dancing awkwardly for a couple of MTV VJs.
Yeah. I don't know what this reality show was, because when I looked it up, it was just kids dancing. And this is just kind of weird. She was also a baby at this time. 17 is extremely young. But yet she made it to the position of runners-up in this competition. And this win opened some doors for her, specifically on MTV. So she ended up auditioning to be a video jockey with them. And she was picked for it. And over the next 2 to 3 years, she would spend a ton of time with MTV hosting many shows for them, including a show called Gone in 60 Seconds, no connection with the movie.
What movie?
Okay, so it's a famous movie, Nisha. It's a Nicolas Cage movie. He steals a bunch of cars. It's actually very stupidly fun. I quite loved it.
I've only seen one Nicolas Cage movie. And that's Face Off.
Oh, I thought you would say National Treasure, which I also understand.
No, I haven't seen that.
That is such... Should we do a marathon? Okay, after the season.
Oh, wait. I've also seen the Alcatraz one. Not bad.
Oh, sweet. Have you also watched Into the Spider-Verse?
Yes.
There you go. He's in it.
Wait, what?
He's the Noah Spider-Man.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Back to Rhea.
Yes. So Raghavi covered Rhea's early life and her career. So let me take you on another journey. The kind of journey that a young woman in the entertainment industry must face. One where she is both infantilized and sexualized, and a barrage of unnecessary information is made available about her online without her consent, and more likely without her knowledge.
That's great.
So here we go. Rhea is 5 feet and 5 inches tall. In centimeters, that is 166. She weighs about 110 pounds or 50 kgs. Her zodiac sign is Cancer. Her preferred cuisine is seafood. Her shoe size is US 8. Her dress size is UK 4. Her favorite colors are black, red and white. Her favorite places to travel is London and Cape Town. Favorite actor, Salman Khan. Favorite actress, Madhuri Dixit. Rumoured ex-boyfriend, Aditya Roy Kapoor, who is also an actor, I guess. The car she currently owns, a Jeep Compass in a silvery gloss finish. This car likely came with a price tag of about 28 lakhs or 2.8 million rupees. You want the license plate of her car? That's also publicly available. But we won't mention it because we are not paparazzi.
Thank God.
We also have her address. How? Because paparazzi. We might just have her phone number. How? The paparazzi.
Oh, also the government and a bunch of news channels.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. So you know how we often lament about how we don't know about the women that we cover. By that we mean, please tell us more about their childhoods, their upbringing, their relationship with their parents and sibling, their educational background, circumstances that led them to this life of crime or unethical actions, whatever that kind of stuff. What we don't mean is details about her chest, waist, hip measurements and all kinds of personal information.
Yeah.
But that's what we got from our review of Rhea's life. And I wish there was a way to erase it from our memories.
Or from the internet, because that's straight up a breach of her privacy. But now that we know everything about her, other than, I guess, the brand of toothpaste she buys, I just have to probably go to Pinkvilla to find out.
Yeah, I'm sure it's there.
Let's get on with her professional career, I guess. In 2012, Rhea made her film debut with the Telugu film Tuniga Tuniga. Unfortunately, it didn't do too well at the box office. In 2013, she made her Bollywood debut with a movie called Mere Dad Ki Maruti. On IMDb, this movie has a 6.4 on 10, which is not the worst. That's pretty all right.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. Between this time and 2018, she, starred in a handful of movies that did moderately okay. In 2019, though, I guess it was slightly better life for her, both professionally and personally, because she started a company called Vivid Rage Reality X with her brother, which is something in AI. I'm not exactly sure what it does, but the website of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs states that this company's activities were other computer-related activities, for example, maintenance of websites and creation of multimedia presentations. So I still don't know what it does. The directors of the company, though, which is the more important part, were Rhea, her brother, Rhea Chakraborty. His name is spelled wrong, by the way. It's spelled Sakrabarty on the website. And the last director of this company was Sushant Singh Rajput.
I have a question for you here. Did you try to log into the Ministry of Corporate Affairs website again?
Did you get a notification?
I did. But were you able to get information, or did you struggle again?
I struggled because I haven't been active in about 30 days. So they automatically deactivate your account. Yeah. That is the email that we would have gotten. So it would have first said, here is the OTP. And then I would have plugged in the OTP and then it would have said, oops.
Yeah,
it's not working. So then I went through CAPTCHA hell for 3 hours. And then finally I was just like, you know what? Let me just Google it and see if I can get anything. And that's how it happened. Yeah. Thank you for bringing back those awful memories. You're the best.
It's separate podcast. Raghavi and her struggles with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs website. So we're talking about Sushant Singh Rajput, or SSR as he's referred to. He was an Indian actor primarily featured in Bollywood movies. We have detailed his tragic backstory in our episode on Kangana Ranaut, because is there anyone in this country that didn't milk his unfortunate death?
Oh, yeah.
But on June 14th, 2020, Sushant was found dead in his apartment in Mumbai, hanging from the ceiling fan. His death was ruled as a suicide, and police reports indicated that he suffered from clinical depression and bipolar disorder. On the same day, his post-mortem was conducted and his death was ruled as a suicide. No foul play was suspected at the time. Rhea and Sushant had met at a party in 2019. The timeline is not really clear, and also we don't really want to investigate it any further.
Yeah.
But it's reported that they began a romantic relationship in early 2019 sometime. There are also reports that they lived together in his Mumbai apartment and they were considering getting married. The two had been spotted multiple times by paparazzi, but neither of them outrightly confirmed a relationship.
Oh, but the paparazzi tried. They tried to find out. They were pretty insistent about figuring out. They were actually consistently hounded, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they're just a bunch of Nancy Drews with cameras, the whole lot.
Yeah, that's right.
So our case starts a little over a month after Sushant's demise on 25th July 2020. So right now we were in the middle of one of the deadliest global pandemics the world had seen. And India in particular was not doing very well.
Yeah.
So through the first wave of the pandemic in India, there were many, many reports on how strict lockdowns were preventing people across the country from accessing basic resources. Many unskilled laborers were displaced without their consent.
Yeah.
Hospitals and healthcare facilities were overrun. Healthcare professionals were working overtime and not getting paid appropriately. And there were just massive supply chain issues overall. Not to mention, hundreds and thousands of people died.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the pandemic, we saw Sushant's parents file a criminal complaint against Rhea Chakraborty and 5 other people in the city of Patna in the state of Bihar. So Patna is where Sushant's father lived, and that's where the case was filed. So the case alleged that Rhea was responsible for Sushant Singh Rajput's suicide.
That's right. And we'll actually let you guys take a little break here, because when you come back, it's pretty heavy stuff. Take out a notebook, pull out a pen, because you're going to have to note this down to remember things. And we will see you after the break.
Ladies, I'm sure you will relate to it if I say that we are constantly busy with work, studies, cooking, and what not. And amidst all of this, we often forget an important element that needs our desperate attention: finance. So here we are, bringing to you SBI Life Presents A Sip of Finance, a women-exclusive podcast where we will teach you how to manage personal finances in a simple and straightforward way with your host, Priyanka Acharya, a finance expert who's been in the industry for 14 plus years. And not just in English, but in 7 more languages. So tune in every Tuesday for fresh episodes on the IBM Podcast Network and all major podcast streaming platforms.
Welcome back after the break, everyone. So just before we went on break, we discussed how Sushant Singh Rajput had unfortunately passed away in May of 2020. And his father had filed a suit in Patna, which is in the state of Bihar, essentially a criminal complaint against Rhea Chakraborty and 5 other people, alleging multiple things and also specifically that she was responsible for his son's suicide. So between 25th July and 25th August 2020, a mess of things happened. Rhea was accused of money laundering along with her family. In particular, she was accused of siphoning funds from Sushant under fraudulent means. Now, this set of allegations got the Enforcement Directorate involved, which is the Indian agency that investigates economic crimes. Usually they wouldn't get involved in something like this, but I think because it became cross-jurisdictional, she lived in Bombay, the complaint was filed in Patna, it kind of, I guess, makes sense on a jurisdiction level for them to get involved. Later, the Supreme Court of India permitted the Central Bureau of Investigation, or the CBI, to also look into the investigation. So the CBI is also authorized to look into economic offences. However, specialized cases are usually deferred to the ED directly. This is what the Supreme Court said, though, because the case was effectively transferred, right, to the CBI. So they said the actor Sushant Singh Rajput was a talented actor in the Mumbai film world and died well before his full potential could be realized. His family, friends, and admirers are keenly waiting for the outcome of the investigation so that all the speculations floating around can be put to rest. Therefore, a fair, competent, and impartial investigation is the need of the hour. The expected outcome then would be a measure of justice for the complainant who lost his only son. For the petitioner too would be a desired justice, as she herself has called for a CBI investigation.
Okay, I mean, it's a big deal and all, but there are millions of suicides occurring every year, for various reasons.
Right.
What was the relevance of this one in particular?
I'm genuinely not sure. There was a lot of other stuff going on in the background. You remember the Kangna case, right? There was a lot of chatter around, nepotism and just how he was not really permitted to really get the roles that he wanted in the film industry. So there was quite a bit of chatter around it. But in this Rhea case, I don't believe it's relevant. So let's just sort of pass over that. But I do want to acknowledge that this is a very tragic, awful case, about a man who was pushed so much that he was willing to take his own life. The coroner's report also says that he did, face mental illnesses. There is nothing here we can say, to make the situation any less sad. And we also don't want to trivialize the issue. So I think let's stick with the facts and let's stick with what happened with Rhea.
Sure.
So for a brief period till August 2020, all the allegations were being investigated by, like we said, by the ED and the CBI until...
What now?
So until the CBI and the ED came across some evidence that they deemed very concerning for a very different reason. So these agencies had apparently acquired certain WhatsApp conversations between Rhea and multiple other people, including Sushant and her brother Shavik. And they were apparently discussing the use of recreational drugs. So the drugs in question at the time were assumed to be 1, MD or MDMA, which is a synthetic psychoactive stimulant drug that is generally banned for use in India. And the other is marijuana or hashish, also banned in most circumstances for use in India. Now, various newspapers reported around late August 2020 that the WhatsApp chats involved not only the use of drugs, but also the distribution and commercialization of them. Which is why it was presumed that Rhea and her brother were making money off of the sale of these narcotics. Now, this resulted in this widespread belief that there was an active drug cartel in Bollywood and Rhea was somehow at the center of it. And that is when the Narcotics Control Bureau, or the NCB, got involved.
Ooh, I know this one. The Narcotics Control Bureau, or the NCB, is the national body given the powers to regulate, investigate, and penalize any violations relating to the use, distribution, commercialization, smuggling, or other crimes related to drugs.
That was beautiful. The way you said that out, that was beautiful. But yes, that is accurate. And the NCB was like, yeah, me also. I also want a piece of this.
So on 8th September 2020, Rhea was arrested by the NCB. She would spend about a month in jail. Her brother was arrested a couple of days before she was, as was Sushant's manager, a Mr. Samuel Miranda. Prior to that, between 5th to 7th September, Rhea was questioned by the NCB for about 6 to 8 hours a day.
Right.
The NCB stated that she was cooperating with the agency, but this news came out very late in the process. So from our review of the entire situation, the news that she was on good terms and cooperating with the NCB actually just got buried entirely.
That's so unfair.
It is.
Yeah.
Instead, here's what we got. We got Sushant's sister Shweta, who came out on Twitter and the news stating that Rhea committed several drug offenses.
Yeah, one of her tweets said, and I'm quoting this, right? This is a criminal offense. And immediate action should be taken by the CBI on this. Hashtag Rhea Drugs Chat.
Okay.
So this hashtag took over social media very, very quickly. You and I think it's cringe, but it really just swept up social media, especially Twitter. And that's when the media circus around this case truly began.
Yep, that's right. I think along with that hashtag, we had the hashtag Justice for Sushant, SSR or something like that was going on.
That's true.
So between the months of July and November 2020, all anyone heard on the news was Rhea Chakraborty. If you turned on the TV, you would see her face constantly. You would see her leaving her house, making her way to the NCB's office in Mumbai, leaving the office, glimpses of her face being captured by the media when she was indoors. You could see detailed discussions about her work, her salary, her romantic life, her life in school, rumors about other alleged affairs, rumors about drug abuse, just so much stuff about her and just her. It's like the nation was just obsessed with this.
Yeah, but you know what we never really saw for that entire period? A clear idea of what exactly the charges were against her. We saw a bunch of that stuff on the news. However, we never saw what the actual sections she was charged for.
Yep. There was an article in the BBC that was published in September 2020, and it was titled Rhea Chakraborty, Why is Indian TV Obsessed with Sushant Singh Rajput's Death? So the article stated, and we quote, the media circus around the case comes at a time when India faces a host of critical issues. Last Monday, the government released alarming GDP figures. In the 3 months to the end of June, the economy had contracted by 23.9%. The worst slump since 1996, when the country started releasing quarterly data. Much of the downturn has been caused by the coronavirus pandemic sweeping the country. India now has the second largest number of confirmed cases in the world after the US. Tension on the disputed border with China are also worse than any time since the 1960s. But most television news channels have devoted little time to these issues. When a panelist on one channel gamely sought to discuss the economy, he was slapped down.
I remember this, by the way, because what else did I have to do at the time?
Yeah.
I watched TV. So this panelist, his name was Sushant Singh Rajput. He's a political analyst. When he said that, so he basically said, I want to put on record that the GDP had contracted by 23.9%. And the host of that show, it's like one of those shows where everybody is just screaming at each other, just nonstop, you know, like
so,
it's just like,
every show.
Okay, that's fair. So the host of this particular Scream match was Rahul Shivshankar. And he said, and I quote, you don't need to be a part of this debate if you find it so disgusting. So that's how a journalist works, apparently. So Rahul Shivshankar also asked the panelists to leave because he thought that the panelist was wasting the nation's time.
You know what? We're going to leave it to the audience to decide what truly is a waste of the nation's time. But yeah, it's just... this pisses me off so much. Like, this is one of those episodes where, like, you're part of the section because you take a look at the law and things like that. That's like, you know, it's much more, like, much lesser than all of the garbage that was in the news.
Yeah.
Just
in fact,
so much garbage.
The only issue that I really had was wading through your garbage to come to my vague facts.
Yes.
Because it would always be like, did Rhea do blah, 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 blah? And there's this massive article about how much she sucks as a person.
Yeah.
And then right at the end, Rhea's still awaiting bail. Okay, that's give me no purpose. Like that's how basically how each of these worked. And I have spent easily like 2 months reading up on this, mostly because we didn't want to, say something that was inaccurate also.
Yeah.
But the facts are like 3 pages long. That's it. So as you mentioned earlier, Rhea was officially arrested on 9 September 2020. On what charges? That's some WhatsApp chats that the CBI, ED and NCB found between her and other persons that, like we said, indicated she was consuming and distributing certain narcotics.
Wait. You said WhatsApp chats.
Yep.
But you were the one who told me that WhatsApp chats are end-to-end encrypted.
I did say that. And they are. So, end-to-end encryption basically means that, other than the receiver and the sender, no one else can intercept a message or data. Even the company that provides the messaging service, which means WhatsApp cannot actually access any of this data. There are a lot of cases going on between WhatsApp, Apple, etc., and most governments saying, "Hey, I want backdoor access to your app." Right? In fact, in September 2020, when this case was reaching its peak and all these chats were leaked, WhatsApp felt compelled to put out a press release stating that their chats actually still are end-to-end encrypted, so people wouldn't just leave the platform.
So, how did the authorities access them?
Dude, I wish I knew. So it's rumored that the chats were taken from somebody else who was, investigated in this whole process. It's also possible that, we know other actresses got dragged into it, including Deepika Padukone, Karishma Kapoor. You remember Sara Ali Khan got called in for questioning.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, so it's possible that, other people got dragged into it as well. And they could have taken screenshots of those chats. But we don't have the time for that today because this is also a whole question about what evidence is admissible in court, and I can't do this today, okay? Another rumor is somehow that the NCB managed to clone the messages on Rhea's phone, which brings up some, worrying insights on state-sponsored surveillance without due process or court warrant. That is also for another time. Because I physically cannot, okay? Now, we also don't want to give much visibility to these chats on our podcast because we actually don't know if they're real or not.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the evidence list for the, the eventual charge sheet that was filed. Once we get it, we might do an update for this. We'll see you in season 4 for that.
Yeah.
But let's skip over this, let's just focus on Rhea.
Yes.
So for a period of 2 months, many of these so-called chats were leaked in the media. The thing is, how did evidence that was held by an investigating agency get leaked to the public? I don't know. But Rhea, through her lawyer, has refuted the claims. She basically has said, and this is what her lawyer said to the media, Rhea has never consumed drugs in her life ever. She is ready for a blood test.
But you know what? Despite the fact that she was absolutely ready to cooperate and displayed that very obviously in the way she conducted herself, the media just ate her up.
Yeah.
In early September 2020, we saw a series of very disturbing images of Rhea struggling to make her way through a horde of reporters, cameras, video cameras. Like as she made her way to the ED office in Mumbai, we saw her in a mask in the middle of a pandemic where people were not sure like how bad it's going to get. Push her way through these reporters in such close quarters while her security personnel would just struggle to push them off without injuring anyone.
Dude, I remember at this time, if you chose to not have an opinion about Rhea Chakraborty on the internet, then you were told that you were useless to society.
Not just useless to society, for some reason, you were like a traitor to the nation.
Yeah, I mean, either way, if you didn't have an opinion. Like, let's assume you were just like, oh, I don't know enough about this. I don't want to comment, which is what I did. Okay.
Right.
But it doesn't change the fact that some people are being asked to have an opinion. So I remember I was just scrolling mindlessly on Instagram and I came across I think she was a fashion influencer and she was just posted like, cute summer fits or something. Okay.
Yeah.
And there are a bunch of comments on that. I think it was a post or something. There are a bunch of comments saying, what about Rhea? Why are you talking about Rhea? Huh? What about Rhea? Hashtag whatever. And I was just like, she's just wearing some shorts, bro. Like
I know.
Just let her be.
I don't understand that at all. It was such chaos. It was clear that people didn't have anything to do.
Yeah,
and
that's
they were
actually
just
true.
Bored as hell. So they decided to just annoy the hell out of everyone.
Yeah, it kind of really took over everything. I remember there were days when I was just like, should I rest with a cup of tea by my, balcony while I gaze at the monsoon? Or should I just crouch over my TV and watch someone scream at me? about why I should have an opinion about this. I for some reason, always pick the TV thing, man.
Oh, God.
I'm also major FOMO in life, so I just pick the TV.
But we suggest take some time out, grab a cup of tea, enjoy the monsoon if you have monsoon. Alternatively, look at a video of monsoon and take a break. Come back to us afterwards.
Hello. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcasts Network. On Misconduct, Raghavi and Nisha celebrate the first anniversary of the podcast by looking back at Season 2. They are also joined by 3 special fans who recount their favorite episodes. On Cyrus Says Cock and Bull, Cyrus, Ayushi, Amit and Antariksh discuss how a man delivers his resume in a pastry box to the Bangalore startups. On The Wire Talks, Siddharth talks to French political scientist Christophe Jaffrelot about authoritarian regimes. On Ikka Dukka Economy, Abhinav asks renowned cybersecurity expert Dr. Pawan Duggal about possible cyber and financial dangers. And on The Longest Constitution, Rhea talks about the freedom of expression with regards to nota or none of the above in EVMs or electronic voting machines. Do not forget, IVM Podcast has just launched its merch and the first line is out now. Head to the IVM Podcast website, click on the shop tab to check out our first collection of t-shirts. Do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platform you're listening to. You can also check us out on YouTube. We're also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you respond to our shows and advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it. It helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week: Boat Lifestyle, Small Case, Cap Gemini, Intel vPro, and Intel. Future Banao Wonderful with Intel-powered laptops.
Welcome back, everyone. After the break, we hope you enjoyed your tea. So now, you know how we usually do like context setting in the beginning of the episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've changed it up a bit so we can give you more information about the case itself.
Mm-hmm.
So to do a little bit of context setting and to give his opinions as well, we'd like to invite Anshul Choudhary, a lawyer and the host of the Adjourned podcast.
Hello, Anshul. Welcome.
Hi Raghavi, how are you?
Good. As he mentioned, Anshul is here to tell us what the hell the NCB is all about. I know we spoke about it a bunch. Nisha also mentioned she knew specifically what the NCB does, but we have no other context to this. So Anshul, thank you for being with us here today.
You're very welcome, Rag. I am a regular listener to your podcast on Spotify off late. I've been hooked to the crime stories for sure, especially that one on the Bholi Punjaban story. I was researching on that 2-3 years ago, and I was actually going through that prostitution ring she was running from inside Tihar. So that one, that was a really good episode.
Whoa, you were on this case?
I wasn't on this case. I was following that case. Like, my research was so deep at that time that I was actually talking to the people she was connected to when she was operating her prostitution ring.
Oh, no.
That was one of our depressing episodes. So
let's just jump right into it.
Yep.
Anshul, we have a series of questions for you. This is our context setting structure of the episode, which we take very, very seriously. No pressure at all. But I'll come at you right at it, okay? First things first. What is the NCB and why does it exist? Just tell us.
Well, legally speaking, NCB is the central agency which was created when NDPS was introduced to India in 1986. At that time, US government was pressurizing Indian government to criminalize consumption of cannabis. And under the act, a central body was to be established to combat drug trafficking. Not consumption, not growing your weed plant at home, but combating drug trafficking, as in where it was coming from, let's say the Golden Crescent of Pakistan, Afghanistan. And on this side, it was the Golden Triangle being Thailand, Myanmar and Laos. And then there was also trade happening, but not trade, there was also ganja coming in from Nepal at that time. So NCB's main purpose at that time was to actually stop all the illegal drugs coming from outside the borders. And it was established as an intelligence agency, not a law enforcement agency, which was actually targeting users and consumers inside the state.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's what happened in 1986. And I think in what the role now is that every time you see NCB in the scenario, it won't really be about one person consuming drugs. It'll somehow be linked to a network which will turn into a bigger cartel, and then there'll be a word called international drug trafficking. And that's how NCB always comes into the picture, steals the show, because they've certainly got the curtains to say that, hey, we're just investigating an international cartel.
Wow.
That is very different from what we know about the NCB so far, right?
To be fair, really, all we know is just from this case. And
Yeah. We'll start there. We know nothing. But what we
That's
do
true.
know is oh my God, if you have some funny plants in your house, the NCB will be at your door and you'll go to jail. It's
Yeah, see, the thing special about NCB is that it's a central agency. It's not like a local state law enforcement. It has as much power as CBI or as any intelligence agency,
right.
which I think all of us are aware that they don't have a lot of checks and balances. They have a lot of power when it comes to investigating a crime and then arresting a person just on the mere basis of a suspicion. So when that kind of an agency is investigating a crime, the seriousness of the investigation really amps up.
what are the powers of the NCB and what are the regulations? I mean, which regulations is it allowed to act under?
So NCB was, when it was established under Section 4 of the NDPS as a central agency on behalf of the Ministry of Home Affairs. And Ministry of Home Affairs made this agency, and this agency was supposed to coordinate between different organizations of the government so as to ensure that investigation is proper. Like, let's say there is a revenue angle involved, then the Ministry of Finance also comes into the picture.
Okay.
If there is, let's say, a terrorist who's engaging into drug trafficking, then CBI becomes involved and the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Home Affairs automatically gets involved. Then there's a Department of Revenue Intelligence, which also works under the Ministry of Home Intelligence. They also come into the picture. So the coordinating agency with regard to actually coming into the central role and taking up the investigation to reach a charge sheet is NCB's role even as of today. They coordinate amongst everybody with regard to anything that's remotely related to drugs and on the limited aspect of drugs and
I mean,
drugs
in
alone.
the Rhea Chakraborty case, then, how would you really assess this from the perspective of this is the past that the NCB has versus this is what's really happened in this case? Would you call it harassment in your own words? How would you exactly describe this?
Okay, so with regard to the Rhea Chakraborty case, see, there are a lot of faces to that case. One is the drugs angle, then there's a money angle, then there's a homicide angle, which means killing a person. So, and all three angles are interconnected but are also separated in their own ways. Let's say, for example, drugs. Sushant was consuming charas or ganja. But then to say that Sushant's girlfriend is somehow involved in an international drug trafficking case and was providing drugs to Sushant through this cartel, you can't really deduce that Rhea Chakraborty is a part of the cartel.
Yeah.
I mean, the best case scenario is that she was maybe arranging a doobie for herself and maybe she shared it with Sushant. Like, that's how casually you will put it. But when you read the charge sheet, you will see that, like, the wordings are that the accused is a provider of drugs for the deceased. So you see, like, they just changed the narrative like that, and that's what I think happened with the Rhea Chakraborty case. Because, and the thing what happened was that after the death, the fact is that a dead body was found lying inside the bedroom, and the post-mortem report said that the death is because of asphyxiation. That's the fact. What happened before that, what happened after that is something that nobody knows. It blew up because of several reasons. One of the reasons was that there was a COVID lockdown. They are having the largest population and most of the people engaged in some form of employment in and around Delhi. They didn't have anything to do. So we were glued to the televisions. And because we were glued to the televisions, whatever was being fed to us, we ate it like hotcakes.
Fair.
And Sushant Singh Rajput is not like a normal Bihari. He's the guy who cracked IIT, went on to apply for NASA, became a Bollywood actor. After that, he was setting up his laboratory in Cool, planning to set up base over there. So it was like a lot of Bihari dreams dying with him.
Yeah.
I think all of us wanted to ensure that we are sticking to the facts, but at the end of the day, we did buy a lot of nonsensical narrative that Arnab Goswami on Republic came up with, or Rajdeep Sardesai wanted to play the victim card and do a one-on-one interview and then say ki, because like I said, like the question was very pointed that do you regret moving out of the house a week prior to Sushant's death? her response wasn't like, I'm sorry. Her response was, hey,
You
it
bring up a
happened.
really interesting point about Rhea sounding almost nonchalant at some points. In fact, after a point, she just stopped giving media appearances, right? Because
Yeah.
it just was completely detrimental for her. There's no way. It didn't make any sense.
Yes. Just to as much as I say that Rhea wasn't regretful about it, I do understand her state of mind, and I do see that she was disturbed.
Yeah.
Her partner in life had passed away, and the state of shock she was in, she probably couldn't have done anything. If at all anything sensible, she shouldn't have even turned up for the one-on-one interview to give an emotional
Agreed.
statement at that point
Yep.
of time. And like that's what a lawyer failed at that point of time to. I mean, you put somebody like that, something like that is going to come out that's going to be used against you. And I don't think that Manishinde, her lawyer, even realizes to this date that this is going to come up in the cross-examination
Yeah.
later on and somehow going to play in which, so she might just be in a bad position just because of a single statement.
That's
like
fair. In
this.
fact, it paints her as, just someone, particularly if she doesn't seem remorseful immediately, in a way that the audience wants her to look remorseful. She's basically just going to be told, yeah, she did it.
Not the perfect victim.
Yeah, or the perfect
Not
criminal.
at all.
I don't know. Whichever side it takes, right?
Yeah.
Even if she's going to be, they would have expected her to wear like a widow's veil and like just be sad the whole time.
Swear.
I guess that's what was expected of her.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So, that just gave her quite a slap in the face.
Let's be honest, like consuming ganja is a crime, but India's stand on it has been as confused as possible because before you and we said that we are legalizing it, and yet we have NCB sitting on our heads, and like we're worried that we're consuming something and they'll just knock on our door and after that we won't get bail because drugs is a serious case. Like the sections in the charge sheet that they filed, it's under section 8, section 22, section 23, and to put it in words that we understand, it's about possession of drugs. It's about consumption of drugs. It's also about trafficking. So they've alleged that, and Rhea unequivocally said that she is not consuming any drugs.
Yeah.
And for that, the only way to determine it is through a forensic medical examination that tells you everything in the black and white rather than leaving it in the grey. But nothing so far has come to
Here's
light.
hoping she was clean for the last 2 years. If they decide they have to take a blood test today.
With regard to NDPS, one more important thing is that everything under NDPS is different from other provisions of law in a way that one, it's non-bailable. Usually criminal code follows the procedure that if a crime which has the punishment lesser than 3 years, it's a bailable offense. But any offense under the NDPS Act, irrespective of whatever sentence it has, is a non-bailable offense. One. Two is that it completely overturns the principles of justice in a way that, like you've heard, like you are innocent until proven guilty. Under NDPS, under drugs law, it's the exact opposite. You're guilty until proven innocent.
Is that by design? Is that intentionally structured that way? Because it just seems like it's so unnecessary considering there are different kinds of drugs that are in question here.
I think we'll have to commend the guy sitting in US back in 1950s or 60s
Aha.
leading the war on drugs that time.
That one guy.
Because he surely played a card so well that today India is suffering on account of such stringent but ineffective laws.
Thank you so much, Anshul. Normally, Raghavi is the one who sets context for us on all of these episodes. And I'm very glad that we had a different voice, a different lawyer to set different context for us. And actually, this gave us a lot of information, a lot of like new ways to think about the NCB and the powers and everything. It's just, you don't get this kind of information just from like reading a textbook or reading reading, definitely not from reading publications, not from the media for sure. So thanks a lot. For everyone else, you can catch Anshul on the Adjourned podcast. It's available on YouTube and you can also get their videos. It's a fun podcast. You should go and listen to them. And thanks again, Anshul, for being part of this.
Thank you so much. You should also check out our Instagram. So see, Adjourned podcast is when you realize that laws of this country are bloody archaic and their interpretations are going to drown you in so many papers that just by selling the raddi, you will be a millionaire by the end of the day. But Adjourned is the place where you talk about the law, what's important. Like if you want to get a divorce, like you shouldn't be worried about how to get a divorce. You should be worried about where am I at? Be conscious about your situation rather than the law. Lawyers are there to handle the law. But you got to handle yourself. What if you're caught with mal? What if you want an abortion? And things like that. So the law that matters to people who really want to come up and make the changes in their life to elevate themselves. Adjourned is more about changing that.
That is awesome. We do none of that.
Adjourned podcast की description सुनने के बाद आपको पता तो चल गया होगा. We are an interesting page. We have 5 videos on the YouTube channel today. Please watch it. It's about mal. It's about divorce. It's about abortion. It's about porn.
Whoa.
So, if there's anything unsanskari you look forward to watching on our channel, please do let us know in the comment section. So far as the interesting bits are concerned, they're always up on our Instagram page. Adjourned Podcast is the page.
Nice,
Check it
yes.
out. Let us know how you find it.
Great. And as we like to say, listener discretion is advised.
Yes.
There we go. Thanks so much, Anshul, again. Really appreciate having you here. This was really fun for us too.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed every bit of it too.
Thank you. So, on 8th October 2020, the Bombay High Court granted her bail and she was released from prison after a month. The High Court ruled that Rhea had no criminal antecedents, which is one of the primary qualifications for bail. The second qualification for bail usually is, will the person be of flight risk? Will they leave the country, etc.? Will they run away from law enforcement? To address that, the High Court basically took away her passport. They also asked her to submit a bond of 1 lakh rupees. She was also asked to show up at the NCB's office once a month for a period of 6 months. And also mark her attendance at a local police station every day for a period of 10 days from her release.
Okay.
So, I guess in theory this works. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she can't leave the country, man. She doesn't have a passport. The third qualification for bail is, will she commit a crime again? So for this, the court actually said there are reasonable grounds to believe that she won't commit a crime.
Wow.
In fact, one of the reasons that she was taken to jail by the NCB in the first place was, that she was commercializing drug use, right?
Yeah.
But when it came to the drug financing part of it all, the court called out that there is no direct evidence that she procured the drugs to earn monetary or other benefits. Now, there's something I want to call out here, though. The court has not really commented on the consumption of drugs part.
Right.
I'm not really sure if the court was like, I don't care. I don't know. Okay, I genuinely don't know. You all know my thoughts about how, the police cannot go after small cases like this where somebody's just consuming in their home or something, right? The police, of course, would want to go to the source, where they can get big captures. And I'm assuming that's what they thought Rhea was up to. But as far as the court said, there was no direct evidence that she was actually using those drugs to earn money in any manner.
Now, if you think that the case died here, it did not. So in March 2021, the NCB filed a 11,700 page charge sheet against 33 persons,
Yikes.
including actress Rhea and her brother Shavik, for alleged drug smuggling. So the NCB has indicated that the laptops and mobile phones confiscated from the accused persons all details incriminating evidence regarding the sale, purchase, procurement, consumption, and possession of narcotics drugs. It's also stated by the NCB that the drugs extracted have been sent for chemical examination. Rhea has not yet been arrested on this charge specifically.
That's right. And later that month, after this original charge sheet came out, Rhea's lawyer, who, by the way, has been just out on the media, just throwing out quotes left, right, and center.
Of course.
Yeah, I kind of get it. He basically was also seconding as her PR personnel, I suppose. Because who else would take her on as a client at this stage? I feel terrible saying that, but it's true, right?
There could
What?
be agencies that would take her on.
Really?
Yeah.
As a challenge?
Yeah, as a challenge. Because you
That's
could
awful.
No, it's not really. You could ask for a lot of money.
But if you mess up, your client is
that's-
basically...
Sure.
It's like beating a dead horse, man. That's just awful.
Welcome to the entertainment industry. It sucks.
So now Rhea's lawyer came out saying that the charge sheet was, and I quote, a damp squib.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that word, but it's squib. Also, he said that Rhea would be having the last laugh in all of this. Let me quote again. He said, the 12,000 page charge sheet was as expected. All efforts of the NCB have been directed towards Rhea Chakraborty to somehow rope her in. The entire amount of narcotic substances recovered under 33 accused are nothing compared to what even a constable in Mumbai police or narcotics cell or the airport customs or the other agencies recover from one raid or trap.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's one thing that I found a little odd here. This is Rhea's lawyer coming out and saying they did recover something from her.
Yeah.
Why would he do that?
I have no idea. That seems like a stupid thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't recover that much. So
Yeah.
you mean they did?
Yeah. You didn't recover 2,000 kilos of Ajinomoto. But you
But yeah,
did
that
get
is-
some chow mein. I mean,
Yeah, I
you know what I
know.
mean, right?
that is a very dumb thing to say.
Yeah.
In an Instagram post published by Rhea herself in July 2020, stated in her caption, I was called a gold digger. I kept quiet. I was called a murderer. I kept quiet. I was slut shamed. I kept quiet. In the same post, she pleads with the cyber police for help, saying that she will cooperate, but she wants her name cleared without the intense scrutiny she's been subjected to so far. Rhea would go on to make another Instagram post begging the Home Minister Amit Shah to look into the case with some sense of impartiality.
Right.
In fact, this post is still available on her Instagram page. She never took it down. Since this ordeal, Rhea has posted pictures with Sushant every few months, detailing that she misses him immensely. Other than this, she's not really publicly spoken about the case until June 2022.
So on 20th May 2022, something interesting happened. So Aryan Khan, who is the son of Bollywood actor, producer, superstar, and overall dreamboat, Shah Rukh Khan. I wish I hadn't swooned so much in the last sentence because it gets really upsetting now. Aryan Khan was acquitted of charges relating to consumption and distribution of narcotics. So he was arrested back in October 2021, questioned by the NCB by what feels like forever,
Yeah.
and refused bail multiple times, although he finally did receive. Eventually, he was given the clean chit. Aryan and 19 other people, by the way, they were arrested aboard a cruise ship post an anonymous tip-off. So they were all let go in May 2022 after a series of investigative shortcomings, including, let me list this out, lack of sufficient evidence, no videos taken of the raid, improper seizure of phones, lack of medical tests, inability to provide any actual narcotics that were apparently seized, and hear this, on the basis of WhatsApp chats being provided as evidence of wrongdoing, which the court said, can't use that.
Interesting. So, okay, wait, let me clarify here. It's not that Aryan Khan and his associates were acquitted. They were not even charged by the NCB officially.
Right.
Because there was literally nothing tying them to the case that the NCB wanted to bring before them.
That is exactly correct. Now, this case has many parallels to Rhea's. It too was a media circus. It too relied on WhatsApp chats as some form of evidence.
Yeah.
The WhatsApp chats in questions got leaked. Even nobody really knows how. No testing of any nature was done on the accused to determine the actual consumption of drugs. And more importantly, it dragged the entire Bollywood fraternity through the mud for several weeks while the country watched every single move on their TVs and social media.
I also feel like this case is slightly different in one thing, that they did not vilify Aryan Khan as much. And,
how do
he
you
did not-
vilify Shah Rukh Khan's son? Let me
That's
just...
fair.
Is there
That's fair.
anything that binds us as a country outside of street food and cricket? It is Shah Rukh Khan.
That is true. But also, like, he was not like slut shamed, and obviously Rhea got a completely different treatment by the media. So yeah, like, while it was, of course, they dragged the entire Khan family through the mud, but it was more like, in fact, forget like Shah Rukh Khan as one thing. When the whole Rhea Chakraborty thing was happening, it wasn't just her, right? They had Deepika Padukone and so many other people, dragged all of them through the mud. And they were given the same treatment as they did for Rhea Chakraborty in a
That's
particular
true.
sense. Nothing like that for Aryan Khan.
I think the distinction there in terms of why it became a media spectacle in that way, as you mentioned it, is also because in Rhea's case, someone had died.
Yeah.
And that's why, it genuinely exploded for that one reason. It was genuinely that tragic,
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, is, like we mentioned earlier, the pandemic just got people bored.
Yeah.
As
Clearly.
in, they just needed something to do, right?
Yeah.
So
By
that's-
October
yeah.
2021, we were like going back to normal. So it was, yeah.
By then we were like, arrogance because we got 2 shots each already. So yeah.
It's like, oh, there's something on TV. I'm interested, but I'm going to watch it while I'm taking a vacation in Goa. It's
That's
not
true.
like, I'm sitting at home and this is all I have to watch.
That is exactly what I did. I was in Goa when this news broke out.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
So when all of this happened on 1st June 2022, Rhea came back into the news.
Yep.
So on the basis of Aryan Khan's acquittal, Rhea's lawyers demanded that her case be closed as well. Rhea's lawyers said to the media publications, and we quote, there should be an inquiry in Rhea Chakraborty and Shauvik's case as well. No drugs were found on them. No tests were done. There were just WhatsApp chats and no test was done. Anyway, this approach failed phenomenally.
Oh, okay.
Because instead of giving Rhea a clean chit, on 22nd June 2022, the NCB filed the same charges again
Oh no.
with an additional request to penalize her and the other 33 people under stringent sections of the Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act.
What? That was just why it backfired so hard.
It's so bad because the sections in question could like attract a minimum of 10 years and a maximum
Yeah.
of 20 years in prison.
Yeah, that's true. Depending on the charge, especially if they could somehow prove that they were commercializing it, then just goodbye,
Yeah.
essentially. So the process now is pretty simple. After the draft charges are filed, basically accused persons can seek a discharge from the case. This is what Rhea is likely to do. As this episode is airing, I think this is early July of 2022. So
Yep.
this is the last chunk of information that we have. The thing is, usually, if Rhea does ask for a discharge from the case, the court will have to examine whether the information in the charge sheet is actually sufficient enough to have the accused stand trial. And that's where we're at today. In fact, this is not at all the end. This is
Yeah.
not the end of this podcast. Our part 2 will likely come in a year or something because this is the literal beginning of the legal proceedings. You
Yep.
know, everything before this was just smoke and mirrors.
So now how do we feel about this case?
Hmm.
So, a series of articles were published by BBC News between August and October 2020, and it sums it up the best. Here are some quotes from the article in question. Within days of Sushant Singh Rajput's death, the attention generated by his death had shifted to Chakraborty. She had become the subject of gossip and innuendo and misogynistic abuse. Every little detail about her life and relationship have been laid bare and debated in public. In the case of Rajput's death, nuance has been lost in much of the coverage in Indian media, which has drawn on speculation and unsubstantiated leaks to paint Chakraborty as a villain.
Man, you know what? This sums up how I feel, I think.
Yep.
At this point, I like how we don't actually have to say our opinions. We'll be like, somebody else said it. Look, source. That's what this podcast is about. Facts and
Yeah.
no liability.
It is. Although I will say that I am not a person who is usually interested in Bollywood news. I just rely on you and Bolly Blinds and gossip whenever you look up stuff and tell me. So I didn't really follow this case. I didn't really look up stuff. I didn't really
Right.
be bothered by any of this. So when we were doing research for this episode, I made the mistake of reading through some of the YouTube comments.
No!
Yeah.
That's where dignity goes to die.
It really, oh my God. It is. I would not recommend anyone do it, but like at least don't do it if you feel like you might get influenced by that and maybe change your opinion about the entire case. Whether she's guilty or not, it's very obvious that in those comments, they have already decided that she sucks and that somehow she must get the death penalty or something for,
Yeah.
I don't know, for maybe consuming drugs, maybe distributing drugs, maybe giving some to Sushant, maybe, I don't know. I don't even know what they're pissed off with, but they're all just pissed off and they want her to die.
I mean, have you thought about the fact that they're just pissed off because she's a woman?
You know, that's yes, that seems likely.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it in that tone, right? But the thing is, very often, and this is anecdotal, I have nothing to substantiate it. And I also want to effectively disclaim that as a woman, this is very personal to me. Like a lot of this, what I'm going to say right now is coming from a personal space. It is entirely that. But when we see cases like this where women are vilified, there is something that allows people, especially on the internet under the guise of anonymity, to truly just say whatever they feel like. It's like
horrific thing.
just the worst stuff. Just about always they are threatened with some form of sexual assault, of violence, and in the most crude and disgusting way. To the point that Nisha and we were talking about this just before our recording, and we were like, should we say this? But you know what? I'm going to say it. I don't even know at this point if this woman is guilty or not. I don't have enough information to make that assertion. But dude, I cannot read any more of this.
Yeah.
I cannot. And I,
That's
on some level, hope that she comes out of this with like enough evidence, or better yet, no evidence to justify wrongdoing.
Yeah.
Just because I'm just like, you know what? She needs that vague level of vindication.
I know. I agree. Another thing that really got to me is that I mean, recently realized that she's our age. Like, she's born in the same year as me.
Yeah.
And to think that she's sitting in jail for that long, right? Not knowing what's going to happen for essentially, there was no charges filed.
Yeah.
She was still in jail. It's like, it doesn't matter if you are guilty or not. They haven't told you what you're guilty of, right?
Yeah.
And you're just sitting in jail.
Not even what you're guilty of. They haven't even told you what they think they may have to prove eventually that you're guilty of. Also, what flight risk? It's a pandemic. Where was she going to go?
Goa.
I guess.
But yeah, no, I felt that was a portion that I could really, like, my heart went out to her in that moment only.
Yeah.
Only for the fact that she vilified by the press, sitting in jail for God knows how long.
Yeah.
And yeah, that part I did feel bad about.
I get
But
that.
she is probably going to be back to doing movies in Bengali though, in Tollywood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. There was a director who had sent across a script to her, and he was like, oh, leave this horrible Mumbai world. The entertainment industry sucks. Please come to Tollywood.
I mean, you know what? Other people who committed crimes or is still charged for it are still getting work. Loads
That's
of,
true.
that's actually one of the things you're granted under criminal laws, like the fact that you cannot be not granted bail. In fact, bail is often a right unless there is a compelling reason to not get bail. The idea is you should still be allowed to live a life till something is proved against you. So if this is what she gets, I'm not even saying that's a question of like, oh, it's justified. I'm saying it's a right under law.
Correct. And that's what we're all about, right? It's the facts.
It's the facts. Yeah. Have we kept our emotions out of this primarily? Yeah. Till the end, I think we mostly handled it.
Yeah.
I think we did a good job. Yeah. But you know what? There's something we definitely forgot to talk about.
Oh.
Do you remember in September 2020? I'm so excited about this. When Republic TV reporter Arnab Goswami went on air and he called Rhea a druggie.
Oh God.
Do you remember that? Do you remember him saying she was begging for drugs?
Oh my God. I remember it, but I only remember it because of this hilarious remix on that entire TV segment by Blaze Music.
Blaze? I don't know.
Blaze?
I don't know. I grooved to that remix. It was such a bop. There was this entire weekend when I was like, just like having a great time.
Drugs. So God.
Terrible.
Yes. It was indeed a bop, which has inspired the musical recap for this episode.
Yay!
उसके WhatsApp के conversations मेरे पास हैं. रिया चक्रवर्ती कहती है मुझे ड्रग्स दो मुझे ड्रग्स दो मुझे ड्रग्स दो. अरे चुप एक मिनट, मेरे बात तो सुनो. ड्रगी है रिया चक्रवर्ती ड्रगी है. मैं इस अन्याय को सहूंगा नहीं, मैं नहीं सहूंगा. गांजा लाओ, चरस लाओ, MDMA, एक्सटेसी, यही चाहती है हमारी रिया चक्रवर्ती, क्योंकि ड्रगी है. ड्रग्स दो मुझे ड्रग्स दो मुझे ड्रग्स दो.
That was awesome. Dude, guys, Nisha has done this for multiple episodes. She makes amazing music, amazing recaps for every single one. And I want you to go back to listen to every single one of them. We are on whichever platform you want. And of course, on the IVM Podcast Network. So go check out every episode. In fact, if you check out just her song at the end,
Thanks.
That episode is recorded as having been fully downloaded. So feel free to do whatever you want.
I did not know that. Amazing. Everyone,
Indeed.
please go do that. You can also engage with us on our Instagram page. That is Misconduct Pod. We post true crime content, updates on the podcast, reels, memes. You can talk to us. Tell us if you're a miscondu or a misconductor. As I clarified to one of our listeners earlier, miscondus are Raghavi stans and misconductors are Nisha stans.
Yes.
To which she said, I really love miscondu, but I'm also a hiddle stoner. But yeah, we're here to inspire all kinds of identity crisis. So yay.
That is literally all we do. In fact, if you are like, oh, do I like true crime or am I a criminal? We're here for that also. Good luck with that. But yeah, our page puts up true crime content, updates in the podcast, reels, memes, whatever you like, we're there. We also feature my cats on them. So that's really fun. Also, we want to ask you guys to please leave reviews on the podcast because a lot of our traction is kind of entirely based on reviews and how often we get them. On Spotify, you can leave us little stars and stuff. You can do the same on Apple Podcast, but also leave us like a review if you genuinely like us.
You can also leave comments on our YouTube page.
That's right.
That way, we will also call them out on the next Look Back episode. So it's a chance for you to be featured. But yeah, that about brings us to the end of the episode. We will see you on the next episode of Misconduct.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
What is the workplace and how does your gender and body affect your right at work? Hey, I'm Rhea Mirza, and on the Longest Constitution podcast, we critically examine the vision of the Indian Constitution and laws. In season 1, we looked at sex, gender, sexuality in India, and the landmark judgments which transformed our rights as citizens in this country. In season 2, we discussed the laws which shape the workplace and examine how ability, competence, and merit impact us, and much more. Join me, Rhea Mirza, every Wednesday only on the IVM Podcast app, website, and all the major podcast streaming platforms.